Hello, welcome to Wide Left Sports. Today I'm joined by Montana fencer Chrissa Kazmierowski. Chrissa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I am doing really good. So my first question is what kind of got you started into fencing?
Yeah, so it was really the 2012 Olympics that got me really kind of, dreaming of starting fencing and really wanting to do it. It was something that was always kind of felt a little unattainable, just where I was living. Being in Montana, not everything is super accessible. But it just so happened we had a Helena club back in the day, and I got started, I believe that same year in 2012, and had my first tournament in 2013, a year later.
Oh, that's awesome. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the accessibility in Montana when it comes to sports that are a little bit more on the outlier, like fencing. And I see that you have the Bozeman Fencing Association, and I know you
Mhm.
don't live in Bozeman. So what is that like to have to travel for, any training and things like that?
Yeah, I mean it's really tough. I spend a lot of time, or so I work full time here in Helena, where I'm living. I also travel a lot between Missoula as well. My partner lives out there, and then of course I've got training in Bozeman. So yeah, it's definitely a lot to split my time between all three cities. 2 hours drive in each direction. Um, and it's challenging. Gas is expensive too, and it's a lot of time also. That 2 hour drive really adds up. Um, but I make it work, and it's worth it for me to pursue that. And yeah, as often as I can get out there, I do.
That's awesome. So then, what does it mean to you to have a place in Bozeman, even though it's not in your town, that really fosters your sport and makes it to where hopefully more people join fencing as the years go on?
Yeah, I mean, really, it means the world to me. I've always, even growing up, I've always been involved in like individual sports. Um, and fencing is an individual sport for the most part. There are team events, but having like that team culture at the club also, to that, that we all kind of develop each other and train. And even just over the last 2 years since I've joined that club, we've all just raised the bar just an unbelievable amount. We've all gotten so much better just being able to train with each other, see each other on a regular basis, which is not something I've really had a whole lot with other sports I've done. Like bowling, for example. I've been bowling for 10 years. I did like an after school league since the third grade and never had really a team, or coaches to this level of involvement and improvement. And yeah, it just means so much. And, you know, just such a, like friends and just, culture of our club is just, it's so important to me. And it's not something I can get a whole lot in life here in Helena, especially.
For sure, for sure. So, talk to us a little bit about that individual sport aspect because you have to have a certain mental toughness, I feel, to play an individualized sport like fencing or bowling or golf or anything like that. What is the mental aspect of that when it's really you and only you?
Yeah, so the mental game is a huge part of fencing, especially any sport, individual sport like you were saying, any team sport really. But fencing very specifically, they kind of compare it to chess almost, right? Where you're really reading your opponent, you're making calculated moves, but also decision making, and just being able to kind of problem solve almost, in the middle of your match. And the mental game is really important in that too. Just as a, staying in the correct headspace, making sure you're focusing when it counts, um, and just really staying cool, calm, collected, even when things might not be going your way. Um, there's also the mental game of, trying to maybe even get in your opponent's head a little bit and kind of mess with them. But I even recently heard this sports psychologist on actually a fencing podcast talking about how um, like the anxiety and kind of nervousness we feel before tournaments and before matches, a lot of that is we're feeling anxious or nervous or scared or whatever, but that reaction is actually there to help us, right? It's like a biological thing that we get when we're in those situations to help us actually get out of those or move on from those. And that's something I've been doing a lot recently is just trying to tell myself I'm not anxious, I'm excited, right? I'm ready to be here. I'm ready to do really well in this tournament, and I'm excited about it. And that seems to be helping a lot. And that's kind of sports psychology aspect is something that's really common in high level fencing.
Hmm. That's awesome. So, talk to us a little bit about some of the places that fencing has been able to take you. I mean, we were talking at the TEDx event about where you were going to be going, and then you brought up more when we were talking before this. So, talk about some of the places that just fencing has been able to take you.
Yeah, absolutely. So being kind of in Montana, I go fairly regularly out to kind of the Pacific Northwest region. So I'm in Spokane fairly often, kind of the Seattle area. Even I've been out to Portland for regionals before. I've been to Denver, so a little bit further south, also for some regionals. I've gone to nationals 2 years in a row. So I've been to Columbus, Ohio, and then this last July, we were in Milwaukee for nationals. And then, yeah, my first tournament since nationals. So my first tournament this season, I just came back from Dublin, which has been an amazing experience. My first international tournament, and definitely excited to keep traveling and hopefully do some more international events. Those were extremely fun and just amazing to be able to travel and represent my country.
That's awesome. So, talk to us a little bit about those events and just the sheer amount of athletes that are at those events, and then just the level of competition that you were able to, one, earn your way to, but then be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So regional competitions are they we have in fencing we have a couple different skill categories. So I fence in the senior division. And there's a couple of ages, but in senior, right, we have division one, two, and three, and you can kind of equate that to like college football, right? You always hear people playing D1 or D2 football. It's kind of the same thing for the most part. So like more regional events, it's usually Division Two or Division One, different categories. And then at nationals, you'll have every single category. So you'll have all the way from, vet 80, so people 80 and up fencing, all the way down to Y10, so like 10 and up fencing, and you have every single event in between. And more regional events are, they're regional, they're a little bit smaller, but they're still about maybe 30-ish people. So still, quite large
Yeah.
for fencing events compared to like a local event that might have maybe 10, 15, around the Montana and Spokane area. And then nationals. So my Division two event at nationals was like 270 people or
Wow.
something like that. And some of them get even bigger. The biggest category right now is junior men's. And the junior men's epee event that I had some teammates fencing at was like over 400 people. It was just
Wow.
insane. Yeah. And even, those are probably the biggest events going on right now in the world. Every year, nationals just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and even on the national circuit, so like the highest kind of level of competition, um, that you get your national points and you're on your leaderboard board for. Those are like 300 people, 250 people every event.
Wow.
Um, and then even going internationally was a lot smaller than I thought it would be. I think my Dublin event was only 72 people, um, out of what, like almost 1,000 people on the leaderboard for that event internationally. That being said, traveling and everything is a big factor.
Oh yeah.
But even in the U.S. domestically, traveling cross country is not uncommon, and it's amazing how many people are dedicated enough to be doing that.
For sure, for sure. So my my other question is about the Olympics, and we kind of talked about it beforehand, but that's really where everybody gets a little bit of taste into fencing is the Olympics every 4 years.
Mhm.
So in order to qualify for that, what is like the criteria and how do they do that?
Yeah, so fencing is a little bit different where there's not exactly like, okay, here are your Olympic trials or here are your Olympic qualification tournament. Fencing, and at least in the US, I can't speak to other countries, but they just take basically the top fencers nationally, um, of that season before the Olympics. So you'll have basically one whole season to qualify, and you can whatever go to as many tournaments as you can, get as many points, place as high as you can to get those points, and then hopefully make it to that top of the list. They only take in the U.S. They'll only take the top four for each weapon, for fencing, men's and women's, and then they'll have the top three in the individual event at the Olympics, and then that fourth person will act as an alternate or like a substitute for the team event. Um, and yeah, it's cool to even see that. Like in the last Olympics, we actually had a few U.S. teams have to sub in their alternate, and watching them fence, and yeah, it was it's not like you're just a bench warmer,
Yeah.
being that fourth person. You're absolutely a huge part of the game, and you know results might very well depend on you. So it's an amazing opportunity, and so many coaches and get to go as well. And there's just a whole squad that goes out just for fencing. And yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah, that sounds really tough. So, in your answer there, you actually gave me another question that I didn't realize. I didn't realize there were multiple different types of weapons in
Mm-hmm.
fencing. So, for people like me that had no idea, can you kind of tell us about those different types of weapons and what they entail and what they're used for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the three weapons in Olympic fencing, we have the foil, the epee, and the saber. The saber is a slashing weapon, where the target are like arms, torso, and head is your main target. And then foil and epee are point weapons, so they're more precision, and they have buttons kind of at the end, and they have like a wire that runs through the middle of the blade, and then it's all an electrical circuit you plug into the score box. So when that point gets pressed, um, the light goes off in the score box, and it shows you who got
Okay.
the point. So for foil, it's just the torso that's the target and kind of like the neck area. And then epee, which is what I fence, your whole entire body is the target. Um, so it's a lot more. Not that it's necessarily more tactical or strategical than the other weapons, but it's definitely a little bit slower paced, a little bit more, I don't know how you'd say it, but just a little bit more cautious.
That makes sense. Okay, so then that leads me to another follow-up question. With the weapons, and I know that you guys wear a lot of protection, but how do you get yourself hyped up, I guess, for the beating that still is going to come? Because, I mean, obviously the protection can only do so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of interesting when you're in that competition, you're all your muscles are engaged, your core, your legs, everything. So when you're getting hit, it really you don't feel it because sometimes you get hit really hard. I actually have a big
Oh, yep.
bruise there that's from Dublin. That's nothing. It's been you know, quite a while since I got that, and it's still on there. Um, but you're still like your core's engaged, so you get hit in the stomach, and you really don't feel it unless you're getting hit really hard. Um, but yeah, it's just the whole adrenaline, the rush, the excitement of being in the moment. Um, Kind of you forget those things until afterwards. You're like, ow, like when did I get hit there? Like you don't even remember it sometimes. Um, but yeah, yeah,
For sure. So then for people that don't know what that protection looks like and how much padding and things like that you have, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown of your suit for um your game or your matches, excuse me, and just like where they're really protective and where it's kind of lacking.
yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of two levels of gear, right? There's your very kind of basic standard gear that we have in the US, and it's certified for 350 newtons of force. That's what it's rated for. Internationally, they require you to have gear that's rated for 18, or excuse me, 800 newtons of force, with your mask being required for 1600 newtons. Um, so really, you've got a whole bunch of gear, like you're saying, right? So you've got like your basics, your kind of shoes, socks, whatever you kind of want to wear under your uniform. I wear like shorts and like a tank top.
Yeah.
Um, and then you've got like your pants, right? So I've actually got some of it back here. So you've got your britches that kind of just go to right about your knee level.
Uh-huh.
These are mine with my USA printing on them that I had to have for international tournament.
Love that.
Um, yeah, and so yeah, you've got your pants, and then your first layer for women's, it's required that you have a plastic chest protector on,
Uh-huh.
and it's basically just almost like a sports bra, but it's just a piece of plastic. Over that, you have what they call a plastron, and it's just like a half shirt. You kind of tie on the side, it goes around your neck a little bit, and what it does, it's like a half a t-shirt. So the sleeve on it goes, maybe just a little bit down your arm to really protect like exactly where I got hit there. That's what it's supposed to be protecting. um, and then over that, you have your main jacket, long sleeve jacket, high collar. On the collar, it's actually even double layered. So if you get hit and the opponent's blade slides up, it'll catch on the collar and won't go up and into your neck
Okay,
under
good.
your mask. So there's some safety there. You've got your glove. It's different kinds, but pretty padded for the most part, just to have that hand protection, especially where, fencing epee, you get hit in the hand a lot. So having a nice glove definitely, is a big deal. And then the mask. This is my mask. They do
Nice.
come in a couple different colors, but I really like the all white look personally.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then yeah, this one's got that 1600 rated patch on the side there with the international
Oh yeah.
stamp of approval. FIE is the International Fencing Federation. Um, and yeah, when you go to tournaments too, they for the most part they check all your gear. So they want to make sure your glove doesn't have any holes in it, your mask doesn't have any dents or isn't unsafe. And sometimes they'll check other pieces of gear, sometimes they don't. But when they do, they kind of give it like a little stamp. So there's my
Oh,
little
okay, yep.
monkey stamp from the Dublin tournament.
That's awesome.
um, but yeah, and then of course like your main, your weapons. Like this is one of my epes. Got a whole bunch of signatures on the
Oh,
inside
that's cool.
from all sorts of people I've met fencing. Um, and then like the grip, and like you can see it really kind of protects your hand a little bit
Yeah, it
more.
does.
This one. Um, so yeah, that's the kind of the basic gear rundown for you. A couple pieces to show you.
Oh, that's awesome, and I love it because I
Yeah,
feel like fencing is a sport that again we watch during the Olympics, but then we almost kind of don't see it until the
sure.
Olympics the next time. So
Hmm.
I love the rundown of it because they don't even give us that, you know, and
Right, right.
I think that's so awesome. So what is your hope for, you know, younger people that are wanting to maybe get into fencing? What is your suggestion for them to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more accessible in places that are not Montana, which is very unfortunate. Um, but right now, I mean, in the last year, some of my club mates, myself included, have started the Montana Fencing Foundation that's really aimed at getting fencing all over Montana. It used to be huge in Montana in like the 2010s.
Yeah.
So like when I started, it was Bozeman, Helena, and Missoula all had huge clubs and would all, fence each other and go places. And it was pretty large, and it all just kind of died off. Um, and so we're trying to get that out more. So even what was it? Like last spring, I did a guest teaching at a high school here in Helena. I've got, my club mates do YMCA programs for the kids out in Bozeman and yeah, Belgrade even too. And we go as far out as where do we go? Like I don't even remember. I don't know all my towns, unfortunately. But just kind of the Gallatin Valley area for sure. We're trying to get fencing across, Montana wherever we can. But yeah, as for younger kids, wanting to do it, that the barrier of entry unfortunately is a little high for, having your own gear. But like
Yeah.
even at the Bozeman Club, right? We have all sorts of club gear, get you fitted in and, you have everything you can borrow. And, if you really like it, make that investment and get your own gear. Um, and especially at the Bozeman Club, we're here to help, right? If you're interested at all, just come by, even watch, just say hi. We're all friendly, I promise. And, even like the USA Fencing membership, the national kind of governing body, the access membership just to be at a sanctioned club
Hmm.
is relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $29 or something for the year if you're not really competing. So even just getting that membership and coming to a few club practices, um, we've been trying to be a lot better about posting when we're doing like community events or when we're going to be in other places, doing fencing. Um, but yeah, that's really the goal of kind of the Montana Fencing Foundation, that we're trying to, kind of snowball that into a lot more engagement.
Yeah, I love that you said that, you know, you guys do classes at like the YMCA because
Mhm.
that means it can be done literally just about anywhere and
Oh yeah.
can be done well. So I think it's a great sport. And I always love watching it in the Olympics. I'm sad it's not on more, but I always love watching it in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in Montana, it's a sport that we could definitely get behind. So I I think all of our towns should have it, in my opinion. But awesome. So my last question is kind of more of a personal thing because I got to meet your parents
Mhm.
at TEDx Billings. Your mom gave an amazing speech, so shout out to your mom. But what
Yes.
does it mean to have their support through all of this?
Well, um, yeah, I mean, it's so important to have them supporting me and kind of have, them to fall back on, right? I live at home still, without even just the basics, right? Having a place to stay, not being fully on my own, kind of investing in my own fencing and everything, my own travel, and then just being able to still live with my parents. They still feed me. So just few things I don't have to worry about, so I can focus more on my sport. They'll sometimes come with me to tournaments and everything, which I'm extremely grateful for. Even, going back and forth between Bozeman, sometimes my parents will come with me because they know I get super tired, and sometimes driving back at 10 or 11 o'clock at night is a little challenging, especially if I have work, at like 6 or 7 in the morning the next
Right.
day. Um, so even just that is so helpful, and just I'm so grateful for. And even my partner as well. We've been together almost 3 years now, and just having them show up to not every, but a lot of my tournaments, especially traveling ones where I'm going to Spokane and we go through Missoula, and we just, I couldn't do it without them for sure. And yeah, it means so much to be able to really focus my own kind of finances and planning and schedule and everything on fencing without having to worry about, oh, I have to, go grocery shopping this
Yeah.
week, or, oh, my rent is due, which I still pay it forward. And, how about my family? I have a little bit of a rent, but it's not outrageous. It's very
Right.
reasonable.
It's
And
not what it would have been if you were out on your own.
yeah, exactly. And so, I don't have to worry about, oh, well, I can't afford to go to this whatever tournament because I have to pay rent this month or something. Um, so yeah, I'm absolutely, just so grateful for them and for everything that they do for me in my fencing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for giving us a little bit of a highlight into fencing. And I
Yeah,
wish you the best of luck with all of your future tournaments and everything like that.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be on. Thank you.
Of course, you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.